Welcome to episode 1 of the EastTo Happy Hour podcast, season 1. I'm Shane Little.
And I'm Jenny Simon.
And we are co-hosts of the EastTo Happy Hour podcast. We are realtors with the Richards Group Remax Hallmark, and we live, breathe, and work in the East End. We want to introduce all of you to our awesome friends, business owners, and interesting people that we know and are going to get to know in the neighborhood.
And because it's happy hour, we've decided that we're going to partner with local breweries, coffee shops, so we can have a cocktail or a drink with our new friends to get to know them a little bit better.
While supporting local. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
All right, so welcome everybody to our first ever EastTo Happy Hour podcast. To all of our new listeners, which is obviously everybody. This is going to be a format we're rolling out over the next couple of months. We're going to do 10 episodes, and we're going to do 30% of it is going to be real estate, 70% of it is going to be interesting people in the East End, and we're just going to talk about interesting things that you'd like to know if you met them at a party. And super excited to get into it with our first guest, Mark Richards. He runs, obviously, the Richards Group out of East Toronto. They're the most productive team by units sold in Leslieville, Riverdale, the beaches combined. And we're super excited to have him here. I've known him myself for a long time, and Jenny, my girlfriend, is my co-host as well. And she's known him for much longer. So
what seems like an eternity
feels like forever. Maybe as of today, it's done.
So we're gonna get into it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. And first guest,
Yeah, it had to be Margaret.
It had to be you.
Oh, now I'm just like blushing.
I know. I
Real
know.
flattery is the key here.
Yeah, well, that and alcohol. So
And alcohol.
So this is EastTo Happy Hour, and so every week we're going to feature an East End beer.
Beer or Reed's Distillery, coffee shop, a drink from the East.
A drink from the East End.
Yeah,
So what do we
want
have?
to respect our guests that don't drink.
Right.
Either.
Right.
Yep.
So what do we have to drink today?
We have Sitting Pretty from Black Lab Brewery. I'm repping the hoodie as well. So it's Mark's favorite IPA, one of our favorite breweries. We figured we'd start off there.
We love
and
dogs.
This was an absolute total surprise to me. So I'm happy to be here sitting on a Thursday afternoon having
Sitting
some
pretty.
brews.
Sitting Pretty.
Cheers.
Sitting pretty.
Cheers.
To a good hour.
To a good hour.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Well,
So we
should
wanted
be.
to start off and pivot a little bit. We wanted to start off, obviously, Celine, your wife, we know very well, runs a Richards Group with you, and you guys have a bit of an interesting story, how you guys met. So we want to talk about that.
Oh my God, how we met. So what I kept thinking about was I was like, oh, we've only been together for like 15 years or married 12 years. And then I look back and I was like, oh my God, we've been together for over 21 or 22 years now. So crazy story is Selena and I met when I was 19. She is a little bit older than me. I thought when we first met, I was actually painting her house. And all the way through high school, I ran a little painting company and did it with a good buddy of mine. And I remember he was dating one of her girlfriends, and they were living together, and they got us to paint their house. And it was super fun. And I think she was dating somebody else at the time. I was dating somebody else. And then it ended up rolling up that we ended up going and played squash together, and I had not a cent to my name, and she was already had a big corporate career job, and
Because there's a bit of an age difference.
just a little bit, yeah. And although she still looks younger than me, she is young.
She looks younger than all of us.
it's true.
Yeah. And it started off there. I was 19 years old. I did a year of college. I ended up dropping out. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I figured I couldn't get drunk and play pool anymore and not get an education. So went and continued the painting company that I had started when I was
The School of Hard Knocks.
16. Yeah. And I think I ran the painting company, and Selena ended up running that with me after a couple of years, and we started working together on that. We ran that till I was about 24 years old, and we had to close it down. I was $130,000 or $150,000 in debt at the time.
It's a lot when you're 25.
It was a lot when I was 25. We were just getting married, so I think by the time I was 26, I was married, had our first kid, and didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. I had closed the painting company down. It was great, and we had sort of read this book one time, and it was called Smart Couples Finish Rich.
Yep.
And they sort of reversed the philosophy of instead of looking at what you needed to make on an annual basis, they said, what kind of life did you want to live? Mm-hmm. So Selena and I sat down and went back and forth on like, what did we want? How many vacations did we want? What kind of lifestyle? How many kids we want? All that kind of stuff. And that determined what kind of money we needed to make. And when we did that, we realized that the painting company, to run that and get what we needed out of it, we needed to make it as big as possible. Which we grew fast.
Yeah.
And when we grew fast, we lost a fair amount of money very quick.
Yeah.
But I always call that sort of my education, you know, like it was like me going to university for 4 or 5 years and being in sort of the same debt capacity as what I would be coming out of that in my painting career.
It's a good perspective.
Yeah, and well, I think I came about to that afterwards.
Yeah, well, we never in the moment.
I felt like a bit of a loser for a while, you know, but I got, when we closed the painting company down, I was able to do some contracting work, build that business a little bit. My brother-in-law got into real estate, and Celine said, well, listen, if Jimmy can do it,
anyone can.
You can do it, you know?
So let's hope Jimmy doesn't listen to this.
Jimmy is a great guy, a great realtor, ran businesses for forever, and just a good dude. And I'm like, you know, well, I'll get into real estate and I'll try and take the courses and I'll do all that kind of stuff. And at the time that I took the courses, it wasn't like what it is now. It's not like, you know.
Not at Humber College. 3-year degree.
Yeah. Mine was 3 courses, open book. I could write in my book, and I still failed it like 3 times. So note to self, it doesn't necessarily make you the determination of a good realtor or a bad realtor, what you score on your test.
Any realtor that I know that I'm like, they're amazing. They know their shit. They're always the ones who have failed 1 or 2 courses.
Yeah. You got 95 or above them.
You're like,
I don't trust you.
You're too school smart. You don't know enough about the streets.
You don't know these streets. And so are you at the beach in this time when you're getting a real estate license, or did you start somewhere else and move into the beach? Or
I was. So when Celine and I got together, I was living with my parents in an apartment building that my dad owned for 40 plus years. Funny story, I'll come back to that. I actually ended up buying it from him years later and renting it out, which was sort of a cool story.
That's super cool.
But yeah, so I was living with my dad, my stepmom, in a 3rd floor apartment. I met with Celine, and she was living in the beach. And she said, well, listen, if you want to be with me, this is where I am, and I'm going to keep living in the beach, and I want to be close to the water. And
pretty much a power move. And
power move. Yeah, she totally jumped it. And I was like, oh, okay, can I move in? And she was like, no, I want you to go live by yourself. And I'm like, well,
really?
Yeah. She was like, I want you to go live by yourself. You've never lived by yourself. And I'm like, well,
what do I do?
Why would I want to do that?
It sounds scary.
It sounds very scary. And I did have like a brief stint at college where I somewhat lived at my own.
Yeah.
I went to Georgian college.
I went to Georgian too for a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, automotive marketing, and it was great and all, but it just wasn't where I wanted to be. Yeah.
From the man that loves cars.
Oh, my hobby. Cars and houses.
Cars and houses.
Yeah. So long story short, ended up getting my real estate license and said to Celine, well, listen, I'll sell real estate on the side, but I really want to keep the contracting and going with that. And I remember doing my first deal and like the excitement, just being able to put that together and the negotiation, throwing all those aspects into it, I was hook, line, and sinker. Like I gotta use it. I was fucking done. Yeah. I was in like Flynn, you know?
Now, where was your first deal? Where was it?
I think one of my first deals was on Northern Dancer.
I'd be hooked too.
And I remember, I think we sold it for like a record at the time. It was 1150, and it would have been in 2006, I believe, or 2007.
Big number for 07.
That was a big number. And actually, there was a deal. Okay. Let me go back to the very first. So I had a good buddy of mine, Philip Reese. He's moved on. He's in the West Coast now. He runs several different businesses. And I had met him through friends of friends, and he was a realtor, and he helped us actually buy our first condo on Kingston Road, 716 Kingston Road. And I was just getting my license, and great family friends of ours have literally helped us out through our entire lives. Were selling their house, and they wanted me to sell it, but I wasn't even licensed yet, or I was just on the verge of getting my license. So we had listed it, I think, at $899, and it went for like something like 400,000 over asking.
Incredible.
In 06, 07?
06.
Wow.
Yeah, it was monstrous. So
But the full circle story too
yeah,
is my clients bought it last year.
Okay.
yeah, and that house that I sold, they had moved across the street, so their
They're like
goddaughter
diagonal.
bought
Yeah.
the other corner house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really fun. That's like that was cool. I remember like Mark, was it you or was it Pat and Sandra that showed me like the actual like booklet?
Brochure?
Yeah, it was just wild.
Because where we had started my career was at Royal LePage.
Right.
And it was an amazing family there. Keith and Jen Burton ran it. Chris Dunlop since now owns it.
Yeah.
Great people, great company.
Great people.
Yeah.
Really, really good. And it was a great experience for me to get into it. And I remember getting into it and like loving it, and like I think it was like the rookie of the year or something. And I remember those conversations, because getting into real estate is, you hear the win stories, but really most of them it's a hard time to sell a
It's
house.
feast or famine, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So it was really good, but then, coming 08, like 08 with the market correction, the change, the financial debacle in the U.S. and worldwide. Like, I remember coming home in October, and we were living on Kenilworth.
Yeah.
And I sold 2 houses that night, and I was flying on, like, the top of the moon, and and that was the last 2 houses I sold for 6 months. I was like, yeah, this is baller. And then I was like, oh my God, we'll never eat again.
Yeah.
So yeah, then fast forward.
But cut to 6 months later, and then like the market has not stopped.
Yeah.
Since 08, yeah.
Yeah.
Since we had a little bit of a blip in 17.
Yeah.
Right? Which, again, when you look at the market and you look at all the timing and how everything's been put together, like, we're running at extreme numbers right now, right? Increasing on a 30% average in the last probably, 3 to 4 months?
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's wild.
But what I really want to know is, tell me about selling real estate in flip-flops.
Oh, Northern Dancer. I remember, and this was like we had just started getting into staging and like putting a house together, and we were so fortunate because that house that I sold on Northern Dancer, I remember going to the Agents Open, and there was an agent that looked at me and she's like, "You're wearing flip-flops?" And I'm like, she's like, "You can't sell real estate in flip-flops." And I was like, I've always had sort of a casual, but I hope somewhat well put together, dress. But there's been a number of pictures taken with me with shorts and sandals that are probably not the best look. But, I think
You're selling real estate in the beaches.
I'm selling real estate in the beaches, and you get me when you get me. Like, I'm very real. I'm no bullshit. No matter what you're worth on the high end or the low end, like, you're always going to get a real person. And I think that's so important to look at when you're dealing with people and when you're dealing with their closest asset or their biggest asset, is how are you real, right?
Totally.
And do they know you and do they feel comfortable with you? Because at the end of the day, we're just people and we're here to provide a service, like, know when to jump, know your job, know when you're sitting at the table that you're going to do what you're going to do and do it well. But, if I showed up in a suit and tie...
Yeah.
It'd feel weird. I'd be weirded out. I really would if you showed up in a suit.
know.
I'd be like, he's going to a wedding or a funeral. That's it.
Yeah. But if we're working North Toronto,
They're suit and tie.
they're suit and ties.
Yeah.
Right.
That is what I love about the East End, though.
Yeah. It's very casual.
Yeah.
And it's a come home, look at your neighbor, and have a drink on the front porch.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a neighborhood that you feel like if you're not your authentic self, you stand out.
Yeah.
So if you're not dressed authentic, you're not like you feel off, and I think that everybody else can read that.
Yeah. I think it's cool because everybody does realize, like what you said, like that doesn't, how you dress necessarily doesn't determine how good you are at what you do or how you care about your clients or what you're putting into it. And I think, especially in the East End and, going through COVID, like that dress has kind of become more casual because people want to be more comfortable.
We can't fit into our clothes.
And that's also combines to it too, yeah. But
That's more importantly, but that's another problem.
yeah.
I went to...
That's another podcast altogether.
Yeah. I went to something the other week where I had to wear a suit, and the buttons were literally going to pop open.
Yeah.
And I
You
was
get like that pull in the middle. And it's, yeah.
I was so scared of breathing. But yeah, so I think that was fun. And it's always been sort of a neat business to be in, right? Where you can be yourself. And
so what I thought was cool, like you mentioned in 08 when like that staging was just coming in, we take it for granted right now. And like whenever we're talking to our clients, we let them know that most buyers are conditioned because of HGTV. They want to see the finished product. But, you know, we take that for granted a little bit. Like, how have you seen that change from when you started? And like, I know you've told me some cool stories about like having wars with agents in the beach about the size of your truck and parking it on Queen. And like, can you tell us a little bit about that?
yeah, staging. So I think when we got into it, like we wanted to make an impact. And because my background was construction and renovation, I've always had sort of a want to make things better. And I looked at the balance of saying, like, if we do make things a little bit better, how do we do it? And how will that impact the client? And I remember there was a house on Kenilworth just after the dead end. There was an agent that was sort of an older school agent that was like really well respected, great agent. And he had given them a price for the house. And I said, you know, I feel like I can do better. I do need some money to help do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I said, but if you invest in it, I don't think I'm going to disappoint. I think that other agent's number was like $899,000, and I said I really feel like I can get you $1 million to $1.1 million on this deal if you trust me with that. And I think the client put in about $30,000, and we had to paint the house throughout, do new carpet, we touched up kitchen. It was a lot of work and a lot of money at that time
Right.
of what $30,000 would get you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no one else was getting their house ready like that at the time.
Well, you were essentially flipping.
We were
You almost flipped their client, like your client's own home.
Yeah.
With, you know, your knowledge, your know-how, putting in a small amount of work and not a small amount of money.
Yeah.
But you're getting that return.
But overall, like if you look at it, like when you start thinking about the non-taxable dollars that you can make on your principal residence by improving it, and what the market looks at it, it's a no-brainer if you, as a consumer, can handle the impact that it makes to your day-to-day life
Right.
in that short period. Because as we all forget as real estate agents, when we go through selling our houses, i.e. or buying houses and moving into houses, which you guys may have done 3 times in the last...
It's hell, and you kind
3
of.
panic attacks.
But I actually will say, like, I talked to like, other agents, and they're like, I haven't moved in 20 years. I'm like, well, you should.
Yeah.
Because you should know what we all go through, and you put your clients through, because it's a lot, and it's stressful, and money comes here, and money goes there, and you're spending to get more money back, but it's just a lot.
Yeah, it is. And like, it's emotionally wearing when you're going through the biggest purchase of your life as well. So at the end of the day, which there were some traumatic moments, you know,
Right.
on that list, and some unhappy calls, but we ended up selling the house in multiple offers for our 1150.
It's amazing.
So out of the $30,000 investment, I think we made an extra 220 G's net in the client's pocket.
After tax.
After taxes,
Yeah.
which was fantastic. So, and I think you get attached to that. You get attached to, you know, helping people and trying to change their lives, right? Like $100,000 puts a kid or 2 kids through university.
Or if they go to Georgian for 1 semester, 45 kids you can put through
That's
university.
like $300 right there. To go.
Win-win. Yeah, you know it.
22 Marks and 22 Shanes
Yeah.
for
I think
Georgian.
This was something cool because at the time of staging, and we call it layering and setting a house now, and how do you really enhance it to give the emotional feel to
Right.
it. But like at that time, everybody thought staging of decluttering and just taking all the personality and feel out of a house. And I was like, why would I want to do that? I remember listing and selling our own house in 2008, and we lived on the dead end of Kenilworth. It was a great house. We had got renoed it, and it had all of our family pictures.
Yeah.
Along the staircase going up, and throughout every house that we've been in, we've had these amazing gallery walls. And I remember agents coming in and telling us that we had to remove the gallery wall, we had to like depersonalize it. And I said, that's not what people buy, you know?
No.
People want to come in and feel it's their own, but they want the emotional connection. They want the warmth. They want all those feelings to imagine their own family doing and living there, you know?
You don't buy a house on logic sometimes, and most of the time,
times.
right? And
Yeah.
you feel the emotion. How am I going to live here? How am I going to like grow my family or entertain my family
Yeah.
or like it's
Yeah, unless you're buying for an investment. But I mean, even like I think you're an emotional guy. I'm an emotional guy. I think you're
I'm not
as well.
emotional.
No, not at all.
But like even like we're looking.
I'm an emotional basket case.
We're like passively looking at investment properties, and I'm like, oh, do the numbers make sense? But then I'm like, oh, it's a Victorian as well. Like something that doesn't really matter, but it's still.
Ooh, look
just
at
like,
that brick wall.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta have it.
It's like, what's the rental income? Who cares? I'm like, no, I want brick. So it is definitely something that's really emotional, and I think it's kind of an old school approach where you go in, you depersonalize, you declutter, you put in the blow up air mattresses with like the champagne.
You still see it.
And you still see it. And I still have clients, like even in the beach, that will say, oh no, I know I need to get rid of all this stuff. I'm like, no, like this is who you guys are.
Yeah.
And we need to definitely make it presentable and show it in a certain way. But people want to feel like the house was lived in and it was loved by the previous owners. And that's what they connect to, right?
No question.
Yeah.
And like where we started with staging, like shit, we'd buy a piece at a time. I remember we first started renting.
We were just renting, yeah.
It was like
Dominion Furniture Rentals at Logan and Queen, and now they're fully out of business. It was ridiculous.
So for those of you who don't know, Jenny has been working with me for 15 plus years now, I think.
Yep.
And I remember Jenny and I sitting down and saying like, will you come work for us? And she's like, no, not happening. And then
No, you called me, and I said, I don't know. You said, just sit down with me. Let's have a meeting. You were Maggie's neighbor, my best friend's neighbor.
yeah.
My other best friend, Haley, was your nanny, and she sneakily gave Mark my number when I quit my interior design job. And she said, I got to tell you something. I said, what? I gave Mark Richards your number, and I went, oh, fuck off. I go, are you kidding me? She goes, yeah. And I go, oh, God. Because Mark would always come next door on Dewart Park to Maggie's house. And
Our first little bungalow.
He would peek over the corner of the fence like Wilson from Home Improvement. And he's like, hey, what are you guys doing? And I'd be like, oh, God, Mark Richards is going to come drink wine with us. Oh. And so anyways, cut to my interview.
Yeah.
I went over to Mark and Celine's rental while they were renovating Kenilworth.
Yeah. Then we had...
I showed up in I was like, because I just didn't care. I was like, showed up in Lululemons and Uggs. And Mark was like...
You really want this job, eh?
I think we had 4 bottles of wine.
And you had said yes, buddy.
I was like, you're my brother now.
16 years down the road.
Absolutely.
Still amazing.
Absolutely.
And I know this is a little bit off topic, but Jenny started off as office admin and designer and stager and really every role that you
the person that had to chop you down. You're like, I'm feeling really good today. I'm like, actually, here's the real stuff.
And I could steal your youth from you because on Sunday mornings when I was losing my mind because I had to do an open house, it was like, Jenny, where are you? It's 9:00 in the morning, and Jenny liked to have her Sundays off and not hear from me, so I always knew
the first voice every day and the last voice every day was Mark, and I was like, I can't handle this. And so one day he's like, hey, and I was like, what do you want? I'm making hot cocoa for this open house that I'm doing,
and I don't know how to do it.
And I was like, figure it out. On my Blueberry.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
The side little.
So yeah, we started renting furniture, and then we realized that for renting a chair for a week or 2 weeks, it would cost you $300. So you might as well go and buy it.
As our inventory lasted longer too, right?
For sure,
houses weren't selling
as quickly.
Yeah.
And what year was that?
I would say that we started staging and renting in probably 07, 08, and then we started buying. And I remember we were living in Wayland at the time. And we lived on sort of the second floor and third floor of Wayland, but the main floor was sort of unused. So we had a little living room, and that's where all of our staging furniture would go.
That was the original warehouse.
That was the original warehouse. And then eventually we had to move it out of there, and we took on one storage unit. And I think by the time we moved into one of the warehouses that we have, we were at 10 storage units, and they weren't heated because we wanted to be able to drive up and
take them out
without having to go into a building. And when that happened, it was the pictures would get damaged, the hot and the cold, all that kind of stuff. And I remember I still have a picture of Brooke and Grace walking through our storage unit at Warden, and they were literally so tiny. And I remember walking through and it was like 3,000 square feet and it just looked so huge. And since then we've doubled, we could triple, I'm guessing, but Bianca, Chrissy are just amazing at keeping it going and running it. But yeah,
Shane was there the other day and did a video, and I was like, it literally was just like stacks and stacks and like organized and like curtains and
that was when it was like
half
quote
of it.
unquote messy. Like she was upset that we filmed because they were doing a pull.
Yeah.
So they had all the baskets out. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is the most organized.
Yeah. And it was probably half empty.
Yeah, and it was half empty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
because we have half of the stuff in here.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for our furniture to be ordered.
It's true.
It
This
is.
table right here. We're sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And then
Because I will say for anybody who's watching the podcast, if you saw like this is not for me. The button tufting is like it's like my bane of my existence. So I'm like I have to actually make a note at some point in the podcast to know
there's
that
a reason why these chairs were available.
But we had to get rid of the tufting a long time ago.
button tufting was gone a couple years back. I had like a protest. I was like, if we have button tufts, I'm out.
Yeah. And realistically, that was where we had to change with like what we invest on an annual basis to keep our style up, to pull it all together, how to like keep fashionable, for all of the words, then to make sure that when people are going into houses that it feels current with the time, right?
It's not
Absolutely.
grandma's furniture.
No.
Yeah.
And I remember getting our first truck, and Shannon was working with us, and she was running our design and client care and doing our staging, and we had a little Sprinter truck.
Oh my God, that's right.
My God, and it would be. I was like, oh, this is great. This is so easy. And I'm like, why does this take so long? And then one day we didn't have our movers for a week or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I'll go do it. I'll spend the week staging it up.
Yeah.
And by the end of that week, it was the most expensive week that I had because I think I had rented the new storage facility and bought a new 18-foot box truck because I realized that you couldn't fit anything in a
15 trips back
in a
and forth.
Sprinter vehicle. And
That was all part of her plan.
That was all part of her
Exactly.
plan. And that, hence the undercover boss. But it never is a cheap experience when I go do, and we're appreciative of what the guys do and how they do it and how efficient they are at doing it. That is a hard job, but they really make sure everything comes out wicked.
It's a really tough job. And we found that out during COVID.
Oh my God.
And we all had to go and stage a few homes like Waverly.
All of the sales, and we were like, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're lucky we had Rob, who usually just like Bianca's right-hand man with us, and he was directing everything. If Rob wasn't there, we'd probably still be staging the
Oh
house.
my God, yeah. And B was so great because she would come in and set everything out for us.
Yeah.
But I remember after we had done like 3 or 4 stages, and then everybody sort of felt a little bit more comfortable coming back into the warehouse and so on. And I was putting things together, putting things back in the wrong place at every time. So Bianca had to go and like reorganize everything. So yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. So that's one aspect of the team. And then one of the other aspects that you really built up is obviously your agents and the agents' growth.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than what most teams, I think, do, where it's really like focused on one person and that's their name and it lives and dies by that person. You've really kind of empowered the agents that are on your team to build their own businesses, have their own brand. Why do you think that's important? And, have you seen that evolve over the past 10, 15 years?
I think it's really evolved because the way we used to see it is the team lead was always the front face of everything. It was their picture was on the signs. It was all about them. And then you had a bunch of agents. But as I would call it, when the big real estate companies allowed you to individualize with your signage, allowed you to become a little bit more entrepreneurial with it.
Right.
You saw a lot of more personalities come through on each individual, and real estate is one of the last great entrepreneurial fronts or businesses that you can get in with little education, that you can make a really undetermined amount of money depending on how hard you work, how good you are, and all that kind of stuff. And it's a great business where you can have flex and flow to how much you want to work and how much you don't want to work.
Yeah.
So I think with the balance of that, I looked at it as everything couldn't be about me all the time. And if we had really strong people and we wanted them to last and stay with us and we wanted to be able to provide something for somebody to be able to grow, not only personally, but in their business and all of those aspects of their life.
Yeah.
We needed to do something different. And I think a lot of teams are doing that now. A lot of businesses are supporting that because, we're very fortunate, knock on wood, we don't see much turnover at all. You know what? We've got a great group of people that support each other, that are very competitive with one another, but are also so supportive and good with one another to help somebody up when they're down and, to keep things rolling.
I'd say it's more supportive versus competitive as like
it's more supportive,
an insider.
For sure.
But it's, it's a healthy competition of making sure that everybody, is held accountable. And I think that that's a really incredible thing with the team that you created and the culture that you kind of have manifested, whether you knew it or you didn't, is because you're such a cheerleader of us that we become a cheerleader of each other.
And actually, that's a good question. Did you and Celine know 10 years ago, like, this is what we wanted to build? Or was that intentional, or have you kind of just lucked back into this?
I'm gonna say,
drink some more.
I'm gonna say it was intentional on Celine's part.
Yeah.
When we were with our last brokerage, they weren't huge on supporting team and team growth.
Okay.
When we came over to Remax Hallmark, Deb Bain, Ken McLaughlin, and now Steve Tabrizi, who is just unbelievable, monumental in the business.
They're all incredible.
They really are. And it was all about supportive and growth and how do you change. And Celine realized that she needed the help to grow that business, and we weren't getting it where we were. And so whether I saw that
or Celine saw that,
I can tell you that Celine saw it, and I just went along for the ride. And a cool part about the culture, and I have a hard time sometimes taking credit for that, because I look at it as the people that we've had in, Jenny, everybody that's been with us for so long.
Right.
Makes and drives this business. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
That's the emotional connection way past, Celine and I, but it's the one thing that we look at that we're so proud of, because although these are little pockets in the company, people protect each other. And if there is somebody that's not right in the company or whatever it may be, it gets figured out and the group stays together and supports and so on. So I really do love that aspect, and whether we've helped contribute because we always want to see the best of people and we always want to try and help people. I do think it's a collaborative effort,
I do think, obviously I think Celine has a great vision and she's like a really good driver, but I also think that you guys, that's just who you guys are. So yes, you wanted to build this big business and create this, life that you guys wanted to build.
Shit, I just thought, I looked at it and I was like, I remember having the painting company, and I had 23 guys working for me at one point, and it was hell. I didn't make any money. I just drove around from job site to job site, collecting cash to pay the guys. And I was like, well, the real estate, I don't ever have to employ anybody. I can just do it myself.
Yeah.
And 15 years later, we're running a little wicked, operation with amazing people, and we're really fortunate on that. So sometimes you don't necessarily know what you want, but you get it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you explained that. We had a new agent come in for one of the hot seats we did for a training yesterday. And I kept, we talked, we've got a staging manager. She's like, oh, well, is she licensed? I'm like, no, she's not licensed. She's on, she's with the team. And then she's like, okay, and design and client care. Oh, are they? She couldn't wrap her head around how big the operation actually was and like how many people that are employed by the Riches Group on top of the agents. I think we actually have more support staff than we actually do sales agents, which I don't know that I've seen really anywhere else in the business.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think because we always wanted to determine, like, our service has never changed, but if you were selling a $3 million house or a $500,000 condo, we wanted to give everybody the same service.
Yeah.
So the base was like, how do we make sure that everybody feels great about this and that you've got a level of service that you're proud of. And that's why I think we've always made sure that everybody is doing the right thing and you take remuneration out of it. And if you do the right thing, it seems to all work out, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And we've got the new office space right now, which has come a long way from where you guys used to be. There's one story we wanted to talk about, and we know you're a big pizza fan. And there's a day,
heart-shaped pizza.
The heart-shaped pizza. Yeah. There's a day that's near and dear to your heart.
But first, we worked from your house?
No, first we worked from the upstairs.
In the middle office. Right, at Queen and Hammersmith.
And we were upstairs, and it was down this little hallway, and our chairs, Jenny and I, backed onto one another.
The place was so rickety that the room that we were in was like this. And so I would fall into Mark, because I'd be holding on. And then my chair would and he'd go, can you stop hitting my chair?
And the worst part was our office was right across from the bathroom.
Oh, that's awful.
If anybody went in, it was just like,
we were like,
no, this is the worst.
So you got to know each other really well.
There was another agent there, like another guy, and we were like, you just see him walk by, you're like, oh no.
and then we moved in, because we had finished the rental on Kenilworth in 07, 08, something like that.
He's like, what's the best place to work? My house. Come on over again. Like, what?
So we had the basement, and it was the garage we turned into this great little office, and that was short-lived.
Yeah.
And then we went back to
the original office.
But we...
prime location.
We were upstairs. We had like the whole front of the space. It was fantastic. We were feeling like pretty baller, you know?
We were. And so and this is like right when I got into sales, and I was making all these phone calls, and Mark's like, wanted to do lunch. And he's like, it's heart-shaped pizza day. Let's order a heart-shaped pizza. I was like, oh, for sure. They're $4.99 from Mama's Pizza. God bless their hearts. And I was like, okay, I'll order us one or two heart-shaped pizzas. Because at the time it was me, you, and a few other people worked with us at the time. We had another admin, and then I think that might have been it.
Yeah, maybe one. Yeah, anyway. So
and so Mark's like, Jenny, go get the pizza. I was like, I'm making calls. Like, I gotta work. He's like, okay, fine. I'll go get the pizza. And then all I hear is going down the stairs, pizza. And you hear the door goes, and then you hear, what is that? Like, we had a little balcony, so I ran outside, and I just see Mark laying on the ground, and another agent is cradling Mark's head in his lap. And he goes, get down here. And I go, oh my God. And so I run down the stairs, and Mark's like, I'm okay, but can you go get the pizza now? And then the other agent goes, Mark, if you can't make any of your appointments this afternoon, give me your clients' numbers. I'll go there for you.
I'll take all your appointments for you. Now,
he jumped right up. He said, I'm good.
I'm good. Yeah. And I remember after getting hit, so I went sort of over the car, and I remember falling and coming down like the ground. I was like, where's my phone?
Yeah.
Now, the one thing in this podcast, which I think your viewers need to know, is Story Spice. So Story Spice is very important for everybody to sort of realize in here, and Jenny is the queen of Story Spice. So
can't help it. It's good for
if you take 80% of the facts,
that's a real story.
It is.
That was actually, I didn't even spice it.
Another agent's lap may have been something.
He held your head, and you were going. And then my favorite part was next, because I had to drive you
around for the rest of the day, because I still had appointments. I still had to go do my thing
in my little Mini, and he was like, turn the music down, I gotta make a few phone calls. and he called, I think, everybody in his phone book. He goes, hey, how are you? Yeah, I haven't heard from you in a while. Got hit by a car today. It's been since high school, but guess what? Got hit by a car today. What?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm a little shaken up.
You did 5 deals off that card.
He probably did.
Yeah. Here's my business card. I just got hit by a car.
Yeah.
Gotta love heart-shaped.
Did you get the pizza
today?
We did get the pizza.
And now we do it every year. And every year I find, like, I see the heart-shaped pizza sign outside of Mama's, and I just take a picture, and I always send it to her. Never forget. It's so good.
It was so good. Yeah.
Amazing.
So I think to segue, because we've talked about some real estate stuff, but I think the most fascinating part of you.
Oh, all right. Well, what are we getting into? Nobody prepped me on this conversation.
You're okay with full nudity? No. So the most fascinating part is your ability to renovate houses and what you and Celine have done throughout your relationship.
I think we started like our first condo. We had just gotten married. Celine was 6 months pregnant with our first. Ooh. And we were, maybe she was just pregnant. And we had moved into a condo at Kingston in Maine. And it was 2 bedrooms, and I think it was about 600 square feet. And we had bought it. We always argue because one of my sort of strong points, as you guys know, is like remembering numbers.
You're like Rain Man.
But I can't remember what the purchase price is on this unit. I always said like 180 or 194,000, and Celine always argued it. And I think she actually did prove me wrong on this one.
Right.
But we were in that, and then we were just about to have our first, and we had done the carpet, kitchen touch up, and so on. And it was neat because we didn't have any money saved up. And I remember asking my grandfather, and he lent us $15,000. And that was enough for our down payment, but we had no idea that on top of our down payment that we had land transfer tax, and then we had
Lawyer
legals.
fees. Yeah.
So, and it was funny or not, like, you know, we were closing the condo, and we go in to sign off on the lawyer, and the lawyer is smoking in his office, and Celine is newly pregnant, and it was like, okay, how's this all gonna go? So fast forward, we're just about to have a baby, and we find this great little bungalow on Dewart Park. Well, if I didn't find the bungalow on Dewart Park,
God bless that bungalow.
We wouldn't have met each other.
Absolutely.
So found this great little bungalow on Dewar Park.
Which is such a great street.
Such an amazing street. And I remember the seller, he was moving out of the area and wanted to do just something quick and quiet. And I think I was just getting my real estate license. And so a buddy of mine put the deal together, and I think we bought it for $410,000.
Where on earth can you buy a freehold house for $400,000?
Well, a bungalow. A bungalow on that street just sold for over $1.6 million, I think.
Wow,
on the
that's
opposite
incredible.
Side.
Yeah, and I walked through that, and it had a massive fish tank in the middle, and it was like you couldn't take a step in that house.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I remember going up and walking my dad through it, and he's like, and I was like, yeah, look at this house. Look at what I just bought. And he said, you didn't buy that house. The bank bought the house. And it was very true. Like, we were robbing Peter to pay Paul to try and do it. We had done the renos on the little condo off our credit cards, and we had maxed everything out. We was really proud of ourselves. Like, we were able to pay my grandfather back his $15,000 within the year that we had borrowed it. We had sold that little condo. I think we sold it for around $224,000, and we sold it on Christmas Eve, I believe.
Wow.
We bought Dewart, and Dewart, we put in a basement apartment and just cleaned it up a little bit. We got a tenant in there to help pay the rent. And
yeah, he'd come over to the backyard at Maggie's house and drink our wine, so that helped subsidize his monthly bills.
There's a lot of disposable costs.
Oh, you guys drinking wine? Can I have a glass? We're like, God damn it, Mark.
Who's got beer? Listen.
God damn it, Mark.
Start drinking martinis and vodka. It gets you there a lot quicker. Yeah. But so we ended up being in Dewart Park. That's where we had our first daughter. And I still remember the house was on an angle. So it backed onto Queen Street, but it had a slope to the back. And I remember when my eldest was learning to walk, and she'd run down the back of the house towards the kitchen and walk up slowly to the front.
Tippy-toe.
But we rented out the basement, and we got some money to help us out there. And then we had found this little place on the dead end of Kenilworth. And I remember it was the seller, it wasn't necessarily on market. No, it wasn't on market at all. And the seller was open to selling it. Long story short, we ended up being able to purchase the house. And through the years, Selena's gotten to know me a little bit more of like, oh, I can renovate this for $150,000, no problem at all. And usually that number is a double or a triple of what I actually say is going to happen. But we built an amazing house there. We sold Dewar Park, and we had put it on. This was just when bidding wars were starting. And remember, we bought Dewar for $410,000 plus some closing costs and a little bit of renos for the basement to finish it up to make an apartment.
Yeah.
And we sold it for, I think, $565,000 a year later.
Wow.
So it gave us, I think we put $40,000 down on Dewar Park, and then it gave us that extra money to help us with the renos and so on. I did it because of the passion of like being able to improve something, make a better home. Our next house was a great place. And the picture that I showed Celine when I wanted to buy it, and she's like, I'm not moving. out of Toronto. And I said, no, it's in Toronto. It's just north of Kingston Road. And it's amazing. It's like this suburb home with 2-car garage. And
It was
sensational. It had a 40-foot in-ground pool in the back. And I remember because we bought it in February of 2009 when nothing was moving. We bought it conditional on sale of our property on Kenilworth. Wow. Because just before the market changed in November of 2008, we had a conditional deal on our house that fell through when the market collapsed, and we ended up selling the house for $200,000 less
than what that original conditional offer was.
Yeah,
Wow.
so, but it was fantastic. It was a great experience, and I think by moving so much, it's given us a lot of like great experiences along the way. Like every time I move to a new street, I get to meet amazing new neighbors.
Lifelong friends.
Yeah. You know, like I'm going over to an old neighbor's house on Kenilworth next week to have wine, to talk about, downsizing and moving into a condo. And then I still talk to our neighbors that one to the south of us on Wayland who...
Oh my God, they're amazing.
Sensational.
Fun fact, he showed up at the neighbor at your house on Wayland showed up. We went out for a team Christmas dinner and we were I was like, I'm not going to speak for everybody. I was pretty intoxicated. And we walk back into Mark and Celine's house while they were having us for like further Christmas cheer. And there sits his neighbor to join in with the party dressed as Santa. And we all had to sit on his lap. And he read us the night before Christmas. And Mark and Celine rewrote the night before Christmas with like all of our names, and so it was like the cutest thing.
Yeah. The amount of work and effort that Celine puts in is sometimes not noticed, but it makes such a difference in what we do.
It is noticed. It really is, because that's like those are like the fun memories.
Yeah. And then we did a change. So like I would move my house, and then I remember this was a funny one, and I had always wanted to live on Kingswood. So we were in the middle of renovating Wayland, and this opportunity came up on Kingswood. So I was like, this would be great. Yeah. So I put an offer in on it, and we bought it conditionally. And I was like, oh, this would be great. We started going through plans. And Celine looked at me and she's like, if you want to move there, you can move there on your own. And I was like, well, maybe that's not a good idea.
I
didn't want to be alone by myself at 19. I don't want to be alone at 30.
It does not matter what age. Please.
Yeah. So we ended up saying put in Wayland. But to get off of that deal, I ended up calling one of my clients who still resides there now and saying he wanted to purchase the house, but we had to sell his house and the timelines were so short. So we ended up doing a flip of a house. He took my Kingswood house that I had. I bought his house, and I kept that as a rental for a period of 3 or 4 years. And it was just crazy stories on how it all works out. But It was a really fun experience. And like, do you want to hold long term, have that cash that comes in that pays the rental down? Do you want to keep doing the inspirational stuff for your own places and have that passion and draw to it? I don't know.
It's a fine line. You guys have found your line, which I think is way beyond my line. I discovered that this year.
Shane and I may be a little bit more similar on that.
After the third move, I was like,
I also don't want to live alone.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever we do, I can't do renovations and then move. Renovations, pack and move. Like I was just the 3 moves in this last year has like crippled my soul, and I was like, for 1 month. I don't want to talk about moving. I don't want to talk about renovations.
But
if you bring it up, I swear to God.
We're just fresh from it.
We were fresh from it, so I was like, just give me 1 month. Give me 30 days.
Although I've never delivered a child, it's like childbirth, right? You forget the pain and the punishment. You go back to it for 1 second, or
absolutely, or for change. And like, there's so many things. There's so many reasons why we do move, but. Just the talk of it as you're unpacking, as I'm like stacking frog boxes, and I was like, if you mention moving or renovations.
Well, what's incredible is we don't have kids, and you.
Oh my God.
You guys do, but you've built this into their lifestyle. Like it's just it's almost like an adventure for them, and you get to try different things out, like different schools, and they are and will be
well-rounded kids because they've had all this different life experience and they aren't fixed in one place and they're used to adapting to change. And like I know 2 years ago, I think it was the first summer after I started with the Riches Group, you guys were living out of the basement in the office.
That was not one of my highlights. You know, I can tell you, waking up.
You'd see the lights on. I was like, Mark's at the Firkin. Let's go.
And you know, I've never had sort of the guts to hold. If the rental goes long, then you're moving from that rental to another rental into yours, and you know, never necessarily having the opportunity to wait and finish a house and have it pristine before you walk in. I think one of the, you know, like funny stories in the recent history was, you know, the kids, we had just finished renovating a house that took us about 18 months during the beginning of COVID and so on, and we were just about to move in, and my youngest said to me, listen, Dad, if we're renovating this house, I want to stay, and I don't want to ever move. And I said, you know what? I get that. I'll commit to high school. Right when we moved in, Gracie said to me, you know, Dad, on my next room, this is what I'm thinking. And I'm like,
you're my kid.
I like the way
You're a Richards.
Jim, you know? Anyway, since that,
of course.
So you wanted the option.
Yeah, you want
to use it. Yeah. And then, so tell us about the last house. Tell us about what that led to, what you guys are doing now, what life looks like now.
Yeah, so life always throws you curveballs, I think. And, you know, I think we have one opportunity to live on this planet and, you know, experience different things. You know, over the last 15, 17 years of, you know, being in this business and just doing what we do, like, I've realized that, you know, having kids and making time and spending time with the people that you love, you'll only have so much time of as we all get older and as life changes and so on. And when you see an opportunity in front of you, sometimes you just got to take it. And with having a strong team and having a strong base of what we are able to do and showing us what COVID has allowed us to
change the game.
Yeah.
It has.
Yeah.
So we've always spent a lot of time up north. My dad and my stepmom have had a cottage since I was 11 years old, and we'd go up there every weekend, and it was always just my happy place.
Yeah.
We purchased a cottage up north on Lake Muskoka 4 years ago, and I remember sitting on the dock, and we actually put the offer in before Celine had even seen it. She was out west with family, and I remember signing the deal on the hood of the car, and Grace looking at me and saying, Dad, what are you doing? You said you weren't buying this cottage. And
don't go cottage shopping or car shopping instantly. Yeah.
So we ended up buying this cottage, and I just loved it. Loved the family time, loved the connection, the one-on-one, and really just appreciating good family time and connection together.
Yeah.
So we'd always sort of floated this idea of like, would we be able to have the kids do a trial year during COVID to go to school in a different place? And Celine had always wanted to do like a sabbatical, right? Like taking a year off and exploring the world or whatever it may be. And I always found that hard because I'm so in depth in the business. I love it. I love the balance of being able to strive back and forth on that. So I didn't know if that was possible, but I thought, you know, when we were chatting about it, maybe it would be possible to send the kids to school up north if they wanted to, give a different experience. And there's a great school up there that's on 56 acres. They do mostly outdoor education. They can run every day. They can build fires on the property. They can literally snowboard and all this kind of stuff. And when we were sat at home for 2 years without the kids going to school and them being in these little boxes of room, we thought if we could do it, why not try it? So in our form, we purchased a cottage that was out of my wheelhouse, and we started the game of having to sell our other cottage, and then to make this happen, we had to sell our house in the city, and it was like a very crazy time, but I think like my heart's in the beach, my heart's in the city. I love it. I'm here 4 days a week. The girls are up north doing school. We get an amazing balance, and I've got such a strong team with me. And what we didn't talk about was years ago, how I stopped selling my own houses. And how that all came
We talked about this. We were out at a client's rock concert last night, and someone was talking to us about. We were talking to the wife, and she was like, "Where did I meet you?" And we were like, "Where did we?" And I met you at your open house at your house on Kenilworth. And I went, "Well, that was his last open house because he's not allowed to do them anymore.
No.
At least on his own house.
Yeah,
it was so good.
It was.
And
so
why
good.
not?
But I think, like getting back to it is like the experience has been fantastic. It's not without its challenges. Trying to find a schedule, trying to find everything that works, and that you're appeasing everybody, but you're taking advantage of life. And who's to say something won't change in 2 weeks or a month down the road? And I think what I'm open to and what I love is the ability to make changes and embrace whatever you have in front of you, whether it's a long, hard 6 months of work or a changing market or a different opportunity. You're on this planet once, and why not have fun with it and really enjoy it? And I think, embrace the stuff that comes about.
I think that's a big motto of yours with it, whether you know it or you don't, is embrace change. And you've always been really good at it as someone who doesn't embrace change very well, that it's always really admirable. And to say you do only have one like time around this like earth, and like, why not, if you see something that's a really great opportunity, and for like seeing your kids flourish from being stuck inside in COVID and going to this unbelievable school, like as a parent, I'm not one, but I would think that would feel really good to say, I took the chance, I took the opportunity, and your kids get to live a really interesting, full life, even when we're in lockdown and COVID. And
I think we put it together, and we worry that our children or our spouses or our families or things won't be able to adapt or handle change. And I think sometimes we underestimate what humans can do. And I think if you put something in front of people, one, on the most part, when you back somebody into a corner, they want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So it's only very rare does somebody,
Totally.
not want to do the right thing. But then if you're also looking at it on the base of saying, like, when you do give different opportunities, you're gearing these people for the rest of their lives, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't move very much, like I moved probably 3 times till I was 18. And my wife, which everybody thinks it's all on me with the moves.
It's not.
And it's truly not.
No.
And when she gets...
Sometimes it is a bit more you, but it's a good balance.
She moved something like 20 plus times before we had even met to say that she is amazing at it.
She is good.
She is good at it.
Yeah, she really is.
We'll have her on. Like, she's remarkable.
She's going to be on. Yeah. We're closing in on an hour. Can you believe how fast an hour is?
I was going to say, we could talk for 4 hours.
So maybe we'll have to have Mark Richards part 2 on our season 2. But what I want to do, I want to end on rapid fire. This is something I'm going to try.
Okay.
Let's do it. Prove me wrong, Mark Richards.
All right, rapid fire. Let's do it.
We're talking East Toronto.
Yeah.
This is the happy hour, so we're going to talk East Toronto things. So what's your favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant, Sauvignon.
What's your favorite thing to order there?
Orchetti.
Yeah. Favorite clothing store?
Lamanna.
I told you. I said I'm gonna do rapid fire, and she goes, "No, Mark Richards not gonna do it." I went, "Yeah, he is."
I said, "You put him on the spot, you won't want to do it."
And I said,
his favorite restaurant, Sauvignon, and his favorite clothing store is Lamanna.
And it really is good. What's your favorite gym, place to work out?
My favorite gym is hands down the Mayfair. I played squash there for the last 20 years.
Okay. Coffee shop.
Coffee shop, I'm going to go with the easy one of Starbucks, but Bud's is hands down amazing.
Bud's is delicious.
Yeah.
Best burger in the East End.
Oh, Comrade. Mm-hmm. If I said anything different, I'd be eating for the next week.
I'd kick your shins. Best pizza.
Oh, best pizza. Right now, one night only, no question. It's beats everything hands down.
They're so good. We're having them.
Other than
Mama's heart-shaped pizza.
Mama's heart-shaped pizza.
No, Mark's pizza.
Mark's pizza.
Mark's cottage pizza.
Homemade pizza, but if we're talking about East End pizza places,
one night only.
One night only. Best brewery.
Oh, are you kidding me? Sitting Pretty.
Black Lab. All right. Yeah. It's so good. And you get to bring your dogs there. Bakery?
Bakery, I'd go Cops.
Nice. Pet store?
Bark and Fitz. And like they've always been amazing, so welcoming, and everybody is just so sweet. And
Cool.
it helps that I have a 120-pound Mastiff and a 70-pound old English bull.
Okay, best takeout food.
Oh, hungover or not hungover?
Both.
All right, hungover. I'm gonna go sea spray.
Oh yeah,
Right?
and then you get the free chicken wings.
You get the
yeah,
free chicken
you
wings
do.
with the
It's so
lemon
good.
sauce.
That's a great distinction.
Oh, it's so good. It really is true. And then not hungover, great takeout, East End.
Great takeout, East End. I think our go-to Limon.
Oh, limon, yeah.
I went there
is-
Sorry.
You went there for lunch.
Yeah, it was great.
It was so good. And one of the reasons it popped up, but as a family, easy sort of pickup or takeout or delivery, we go Slovakia all the time.
Oh.
It's great. It's salad, it's chicken, it's easy. The kids love it.
Tzatziki is so garlicky. I love it.
I love
but
it.
everybody you see through us today, you're like either have to keep your mask on or you hope that they had tzatziki too.
Yeah. And I know you are doing rapid fire, but I do want to put a little plug in for
Yeah.
the Golden Firkin.
Yes.
One of my favorite places in the beach, hands down. We've raised our kids at that pub.
Brooke Richards, you'd go, Brooke, anywhere you want to go for lunch? The Firkin. Okay.
Dana and Neil there are awesome, and yeah, it wouldn't be a community without them.
Okay, if you were to do anything, would you bike or would you drive?
Drive. I used to live on the dead end of Kenilworth in our office on Queen of Kenilworth, and I'd still drive.
Would you rather go to the park or the beach?
Oh, I'd rather go to the beach.
Nice. I'm done.
All right, well, that's a wrap on episode 1. That was awesome.
That was so
That
good.
was really good.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
This
Thanks
was
for
so
having
fun.
us.
Yeah, super cool. And big thanks to Ason, our media
Ason.
manager, who literally pulled this all together.
The man, the myth, the legend. So good. Thank you.
Thank you. And as we said, we've got 10 full episodes, so obviously 9 after this. We've got some really, really cool guests. 3 of them will be from the Richards Group, and 7 of them are just going to be really cool people in the East End. We're going to hear all their stories, and we're looking forward to it.
Thanks so
Thanks.
much.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, guys.